Remember back in the good old days of Sonic the Hedgehog when getting a new power meant something? A time when finding new abilities meant you could complete old levels faster. Sonic's come a long way when we're talking about all of the sick things he can do, but as of recent, it's felt less sick and more just okay. We've gone from scouring the land in hopes of finding an upgrade that makes our lives a tad bit easier, to collecting these coin gem thingies that you can spend to upgrade abilities. Not to mention, unlike a certain Red Hat, Sonic's core abilities are so wildly inconsistent that you may go from having something like this to something like this, only to go back to something like the first thing a few games later. From Sonic 1 to Sonic Frontiers, let's explore the mainline game's history with having the Blue Blur's abilities and upgrades change from entry to entry and see which ones should permanently stay in his arsenal. Sonic 1 is the simplest that we're going to get, and thank God, because this will act as our template. This entry sees you using no specific abilities. We could count the roll that can be achieved if you're running at a decent speed, but there's a much better and practical version coming up that I'm sure you all know about. Speaking of which, in Sonic 2, the game has changed up quite a bit. Being the only game in the franchise to introduce a whopping one new ability, that same ability did a pretty sweet job of making its mark. The advent of the spin dash was so revolutionary, it has shown up in almost every single mainline Sonic game from this moment on. It was so good, we'd go on to have a just as famous derivative that we'll get to soon. Before that though, the past is calling. Sonic CD is where we begin to get to the good stuff and see how Sonic style will be implemented in the games from here on out. The Super Peel Out is the move of all time. It's only appeared this once out of the franchise's long history, but it's still the move of all time. From the figure 8 stance of Sonic's lower half to the charge-ready nature of his face, this one move tells you everything you need to know about the Hedgehog's character. It won't protect you against enemies, can take a bit longer to fully charge than the spin dash, etc., but who needs that when you have the sauce? Moving on to Sonic 3 and Knuckles, we see the induction of 5 new moves. One of these is a technicality, since it can be an option not available to you depending on what version of Sonic you play as, but I digress. Here we have the Insta-Shield, the Tails carry mechanic, and all of the elemental shields. Starting with the Insta-Shield, did you know? This move was originally added to the game as the team creating S3 and K wanted each character to feel unique from one another, and they actually felt like Sonic was the least interesting out of everyone. Insta-Shield allows for a brief moment of invulnerability that can help you bypass even the widest of enemy and boss attacks if timed correctly. Lest we forget that a well-timed use of this ability also keeps you safe from stage hazards. Tails carry, as I mentioned, is something that you either have access to or not depending on your character selection. Not much goes into it, but if you hold the up button, then press the jump button twice, Sonic will grab onto Tails and you can begin flying. Pretty neat, right? You're now able to reach higher places easy, and Tails can attack enemies as well. Of course, if you prefer to play S3 and K without the Fox, then this move is unavailable as I mentioned previously, but the abilities don't stop there. Introducing the elemental shields, Bubble, Lightning, and Fire, a whole new game is here. The Bubble Shield allows you to bounce on the ground to reach taller platforms, and bouncing on enemies will give you a boost as well. The Lightning Shield effectively acts as a double jump and sucks up nearby rings. In addition to this, it can also reflect some enemy projectiles. Lastly is the Fire Shield, and this gives you a nice hefty air dash to clear distances a bit faster, all the while activating the ability to walk on lava in certain stages. Fun fact for you all, these shields are all the precursors to abilities that would become semi-staples in Sonic's movesets, the Bounce, Double Jump, and Air Dash or Homing Attack respectively. So far, the only ability that Sonic has lost was the Super Peel Out, but that's all about to change. The Adventure Era and beyond has some nasty work in store for us. Without looking it up, I want everyone to let me know what abilities they think Sonic will still have come the end of, let's say 2011. No cheating, you have to do this all from memory. And while you're doing that, let's dive right into Adventure 1. Honestly, for as rough of a transition this was for Sonic, I think that it captures all the moves that we've come to know and love up until this point pretty damn well. Your spin dash has been upgraded to the spin charge. The air dash granted by the Fire Shield is innate now, also granting you the homing attack. And the ability to quickly collect rings at the speed of light has returned. Wait a minute. Sonic Adventure 1 sees some new players to the game, with one of the first abilities being the Light Speed Dash. a move that lets you travel along a line of rings to access new areas and travel quicker. We also find out a bit later about upgrades for the upgrade in the form of the Crystal Ring, a bracelet that expedites the Lightspeed Dash charge, and the series' first Lightspeed attack exists as well. The latter move is a great way to do double the damage to bosses in one swift action. A pretty nice way to ease players into the 3D environment, and the next entry will obviously start you off with everything you gained in this adventure, all the while holding in the wrong. Here's where the trends start. The whole reason why we're investigating this franchise's many transgressions. In Sonic Adventure 2 for the Dreamcast, you have to gather every single ability that you already had again. Seeing as there were only 3 upgrades in Sonic Adventure 1, you're probably thinking it's no biggie. However, the variability is only the beginning. You get the Lightspeed shoes pretty early on in the second Sonic level you play, Metal Harbor, and that's fine since it's a necessary component like before. This may be the self-report of a lifetime, but how was any kid playing this game for the first time ever supposed to know that the Lightspeed attack upgrade was behind where you're supposed to go in Green Forest? I found it eventually, of course, as I discovered the upgrade for Shadow and Skyrail by exploring, but I knew that they wouldn't give Shadow an upgrade that Sonic couldn't get. The main difference between those two levels though is that Green Forest has a timer. A pretty generous timer, but a timer nonetheless. As a child, my main goal was to get off the island as per the instructions, so it didn't exactly dawn on me to look around the soon-to-be exploding island. Anywho, in Adventure 2 we see the advent of the Bounce Bracelet, which is the aforementioned bubble shield from S3 and K basically. The Fire Ring, it lets you break open metal containers. Mystic Melody gives you access to the statues used to complete the Find the Child missions. And Magic Hands allows you to make any of your enemies into this Smash Bros styled keepsake. Real quick though, did anyone ever go to those old cheat websites like supercheats.com or something like that to find out secrets and whatnot and only get fooled by the forums talking about a black box somersault upgrade to destroy these containers right here? Just me? Okay, that's cool, that's cool. Anyway, next up is Sonic Heroes, and everyone is extremely nerfed here, but by a strong margin the blue blur has it the worst. We go from a whopping 7 established abilities down to an outstanding 3. The only 3 that have made the cut from Adventure 2 to Heroes are the Lightspeed Dash, Homing Attack, and Lightspeed Attack. You can't even really use the Lightspeed Attack freely since you have to build up the Team Blast meter, use said Team Blast meter, and then access the ability by jumping and pressing the action button. This being a Sonic game though means that we have some new toys to play with. Introducing the Triangle Jump, which would later become a somewhat staple with the Wall Jump, the Rocket Excel, it's just a poor man's spin charge, and the Blue Tornado. Yeah, don't get comfortable with this move, it doesn't stick around. Heroes offers a very neutered Sonic play experience, and that's within good reason, I suppose. This was a new entry in the series available for the first time on every console imaginable, so some concessions had to be made. The same can't be said for this next entry though. Sonic 06 has by far the largest amount of upgrades in the series up until this point, and I'll give credit where credit is absolutely due. They're high-key fun. Our usual fare of the Homing Attack, Spin Charge, and Lightspeed Dash are here, but the Bounce Bracelet actually makes a return after missing back in Heroes. These, coupled with series first, the Anti-Gravity Slide, Spin Kick, and Gem Shoes make for a varied playthrough of the action stages. The biggest focus here are the different gems that you can equip to Sonic's shoes. The Sky Gem allows you to throw a beacon that you'll then dash to. The White Gem gives you the Homing Smash, a damage increase to your regular homing attack. Blue Gem provides an automatic boost for you upon pressing the action button. Purple Gem will shrink Sonic down to whittle baby size and allow for infinite jumps. Yellow Gem sees the Lightning Shield return from S3 and K. The Green Gem creates a tornado with multi-hit properties, not to be confused with the Blue Tornado. Like I said, that move is not coming back ever. And the Red Gem allows you to slow down time to an absolute crawl. Kinda useless, but it's still nice. You can't tell me that these all don't sound like they should be put up in the Sonic Hall of Fame. It absolutely does not matter though, since we will get all of this taken away from us. We're going to pair these next couple of games together since they all pretty much play the same fundamentally. In Sonic Unleashed, Colors, and Generations, you have the same abilities in all 3 outings. Class, please turn your attention to the chart on screen right now for me. As you can see here, we have a set of abilities that will be the standard for the mainline Sonic games ranging from 2008 to 2011. Paying closer attention, you will notice that Color Sonic has a distinctive lack of the Lightspeed dash, and that, my friends, is because of his potential being locked behind the Wisp. Yes, I know, it's okay, it's okay. They can't hurt you for the foreseeable future. This game did introduce the double jump too, I guess. Either way though, you also notice a now familiar face by the name of Press Button to Go Fast, aka the Boost. First introduced in 3D via Unleashed proper, it would be the de facto Sonic move for about 16 years after the fact, minus one entry. Yes. As far as abilities, we have the Stomp, which replaces the Bounce and Bound attack. The Wall Jump makes a resurgence as well in there, so that's pretty neat too. Can't forget the Slide and Spin Kick coming back as well. Yippee! There is, however, a stark lack of the Lightspeed attack, Spin Charge, and no Magic Hands. It's a whopping 0 out of 10 for me. Yeah, no. The movesets in these games all serve their purpose, but by God are they boring sometimes. It's all reaction timing and not nearly enough innovation. Mastering a level in the 3D Boost games does not provide half of the satisfaction that the early 3D games provided. But, this isn't me saying that they're bad games. Some of my best memories of Sonic are getting better times in levels like Asteroid Coaster or even Eggman Land. This isn't a level analysis video though, that's on the way soon. Luckily, the last 2.5 games we're covering actually provide some flair to everything. Just a shame that one of them had to get left in the dust. Let's rein in the rodeo with a look both at Sonic Frontiers and Sonic Lost World, as well as take a quick peek over at Shadow Generations to see what the future of Sonic's abilities possibly holds. With Lost World, Sonic Team said damned be the boost formula, and opted in for hardcore parkour experience. That being the case, Sonic can now run up, down, and along walls at will, all while having a couple of returning moves up his sleeve. Those returning moves are of course the Spin Charge, the Double Jump, the Homing Attack, which can now be locked and loaded to do more damage to enemies, in tandem with the ability to kick them away, and the Bound Attack. A very watered down moveset, but being a game that takes place 7 years after the peak options in 06, I can't say I'm surprised. I will say that Sonic parkouring all over the place is a very fire idea. The fact that they didn't just give up on this idea makes me happy as well, and although it's not the same in Frontiers as it was in Lost World, it makes total sense for someone like Sonic to be able to do this. That's all Lost World has to offer, believe it or not. Began almost as quickly as it ended. Yeah, so we're not covering Sonic Forces, because this game is legitimately the worst part of every 3D Boost game put together into one, and that is encompassing not just the gameplay portion either. Fingers crossed we get a remake or maybe even a similar story but better in 10 years or so, but I won't be touching this. On to something better by a large margin though, we're at the precipice with Frontiers. For your innate abilities in this game, we have the usual fare of the Homing Attack, the Boost, Stomp, which can now be done 3 times in succession, the Slide, a new parry mechanic, and the Drop Dash makes a cameo from Sonic Mania. Now, there are way too many skills in the skill tree that I could go over in detail, so I'll break it down like this. With the exception of the Psyloop, an ability learned by Sonic at the start of the game, which he uses to activate many of the Starfall Island's secrets and structures, and also making enemies vulnerable, there are several unlockable abilities that you can obtain as you progress through the story. These all fall under the category of Pseudo Kamehamehas, Pseudo Uzumaki Barrages, and Pseudo Tatsumaki Senpukyakus. Frontier's main issue comes from the truth that in order to beat most of the bosses or enemies, you only need some combination of about 2 to 3 of these. Some are better than others, but for example, you can beat all of the Titans by doing the Stomp Cancel combo. I will give Sonic Team an A for effort, only because they've gone back to offering us variety. To make that variety worthwhile though, they need something or someone that already had a plethora of innate abilities to pull from. Someone like a... Shadow Generations has the framework of what I'd like to see come back for the Sonic series. It's not a one-to-one recreation of how the adventure games had you find your power-ups, since all of the Doom powers are more or less handed to you at specific points, but the spirit of those older entries are there. To boot, all of the powers have their own dedicated uses, and you frankly can't get past any of these levels without using them. The exception is the Doomwing, but come on, it's too cool to pass up. What can't be passed, though, is the baton to you all. Out of all the abilities that Sonic has had over the years, what 5 do you think should always be a part of his moveset? Personally, I'd like to see the bound attack, the lightspeed dash, the lightspeed attack, the homing attack, and the Psy loop. Just like his games, Sonic's abilities have been pretty inconsistent, unfortunately. We've arguably lost more than we've gained, and it wasn't up until recently that this has changed. Perhaps this is the way that things are supposed to be for the Hedgehog. A forever revolving door of new things for him to explore, but if there's one thing he can always rely on, it's the Chaos Emeralds. Which, if you're curious about just how deep of a connection he and his world have to the Emeralds, check out this video on Chaos Energy and why it's the lifeblood of everyone in the Sonic universe.